Hello. Today we will discuss spacing and construction requirements for ties. Ties are the hoop that provides a confinement to the longitudinal levers of columns, as we studied previously. This is a review to study row of ties, row of hoops of the columns. The first one is restraining the longitudinal bars from buckling so that we can prevent the buckling. That we have studied that. So this is columns, and inside of columns we have a vertical levers, the longitudinal levers, and the lever in the column is vertical. The buckling is prevented when you have a proper hoops, something like this. Okay, if you see from top, this will be something like this. This is hoop, or this is the ties for columns, and we have a vertical levers, longitudinal levers, something like that, and this will provide a confining effect here so that we can prevent these bucklings. Okay, so the second role, probably holding the reinforcement cage together during construction process so that we can install or construct this vertical levers and hoop together, placed in correct positions, so we can make these constructions very easy and fast. And all these vertical levers and hoop tied together and installed before we pour the concrete. Alright, so it's holding the whole cages and also providing a increased ductility. The ductility is increased when buckling is prevented, as you see over there, and serving as a shear reinforcement. This is one of the also very important reasons. These hoops also can provide a shear reinforcement. It looks like a stirrup in beams, as we saw it before. And size requirements, the ACI 710-5-1 specifies the size requirements for longitudinal bars up to 32 millimeter. So we need at least 10 millimeter tie bars. However, the tie bar increases to 13 millimeter when we have a larger longitudinal bars than 32 millimeter. Okay, these are important, so that the tie bar size either 10 or 13. Some countries use 12 millimeter bar, but we don't have 13 millimeter bar in Korea. And also spacing requirements are shown in 710-5-2. Vertical spacing shall not exceed 16 longitudinal bar diameter. So the vertical spacing should be smaller than 16 longitudinal bar diameter. That means that 16 times the bar. This is vertical bar. So that if vertical bar is 20 millimeter, then you have to multiply 16 to 20, so that 20 times 16 is 320 millimeter. So you can have wider than 320 millimeter vertical spacing. So vertical spacing means here, this is vertical spacing. Okay, this vertical spacing cannot exceed 320 millimeter if your longitudinal lever size is 20 millimeter by the first requirements right there. Do you follow me? And also shall not exceed 48 tie diameter. If you are 10 millimeter diameter for tie, then you multiply 48, so 480. You can't exceed 480 millimeter for vertical spacing right there. And the last one is, shall I exceed at least dimension of the column? If your dimension here, dimension of the column is like, let's say 500 millimeter, then you cannot exceed 500 millimeter here as a vertical spacing. So the dimensions of the column also limit the vertical spacings. But in seismic regions, much closer spacing are required because the seismics need much more ductilities, so that you don't want your column to fail due to the buckling. Buckling is very typical failure types that we see by the strong earthquakes. Okay, we also have a very important 3 sections required by the code. And ACI, you can find it at 710.5.1, 710.5.2, 710.5.3. So these 3 are all memorized when you design columns, which is very important. And let's explain here. Here we have more comments with the code requirements. The 710.5.1 we just explains the minimum diameter of the lateral ties. Okay, we have explained here, right? So this is 710.5.1. So we're going back here and study this very well. And second code requirement is 710.5.2. These are also discussed right here. This one, 710.5.2. These are discussed here. Regarding the vertical spacing of ties, depending on longitudinal bar diameter or tie diameter, or dimension of columns, things like that. So the last one is also very important right here, 710.5.3. This is long sentences, and it's kind of difficult for you to understand before you listen to me. Okay, after you listen to me, you probably understand this long sentences. This is simple, very simple. So what this section try to say to you is that the first thing is you cannot exceed the clear distances between the bars over than 6 inches is 150 millimeter, or some says 15 tie bar diameter. Okay, but the code says this only, right? 150 millimeter or 6 inches. But you could still remember that this can be farther than 15 dB, which is 15 times the tie bar diameter. So this is first requirements by the 710.5.2. Okay, the vertical bars, clear spacing of vertical bars should be equal to or less than this 3. So clear distance is what? Clear distance is measured from the face to face of the bars and whatever you're talking, right? This is clear spacing or clear distances, whatever. If you measure from center here, then this is not clear. We can say this is a center to center. Okay, so from the center here. So, but we are talking here clear spacing. Clear spacing. This is the first requirements that this section try to say to you. And second thing is that here, if you have a clear spacing greater than what is required in this section, which is 6 inches, 150 millimeter, or 15 lever times lever, tie lever diameters or whatever, then you need to have a internal tie, something like this. Okay, internal tie, something like this. Internal tie. So you need the one here. You need the one here. Okay, so if you see the drawings of construction site, you need a lot of this because of this requirements. Okay, second, first, right? And then there's one more very important requirements by this section is number 3, where you have a levers. This is lever and this is alternative levers. Here the code says the every corner levers and alternate longitudinal levers, right? So this is a very difficult term, isn't it? Alternate. Alternate means 하나 건너, right? So this is corner levers and this is alternate levers. So alternate levers shall have a lateral support. So lateral support is like a hoop that we are discussing right now, right? So this code English sometimes very condensed, well written in short way. So sometimes it's not difficult to understand, so you have to listen to me very carefully. So that if you are having a corner levers and alternate levers, I'm gonna erase it. Alternate levers, longitudinal lever shall have lateral support, shall have a hoop provided by the corner of a tie with an included angle not more than 135 degrees. This is very important. This is number 3. And these were number 1, if you remember. Okay. Alright. So what happened here is if you have a corner levers and alternate longitudinal levers, then you need to provide a hoop here, one hoop here. Okay, so let me try to draw it again. You have one hoop right here for the corner, and then you have another hoop for this alternate levers by providing this, right? So when you do this, your angle cannot exceed 135. This is what this section try to emphasize. Okay, so the tie with included angle of not more than 135 degrees. Right? So this is what this section try to say. So we have a 3 subsections, 3 sub requirements, 1 and 2 and 3 from 7.10.5.3. Now you're ready to understand all these sentences, which is very condensed, very easily, right? Any questions? This is very important sections for designing and construction columns. When you go to work site and your boss will ask you to check whether all the placement of levers are well, then what do you have to check when you go to site? It's very difficult what you have to see and checks and say yes or no to and report your boss, right? So now then, if that comes to you, then you have to check this section 7.10.5.1 and 7.10.5.2 and 7.10.5.3. You check this this and 3 of them here, then you make a little report and go to and give it to your boss. Your boss will like it. And this is very important. This is critical, super important things that we need to take a look at when designing columns and constructions. Okay, let's practice. Let's practice based on our knowledge that we learned for spacing and tie installations. Here we have a situation where we have 4 bars and 6 bars, 8 bars, and this is 8 bars. And we have a tie here. This is a tie, all tie, all right? This is 90 tie, this is straight tie. If we have a spacing, the clear spacing of longitudinal reverse is less than 150, then we don't need these ties. All right, we don't need these ties. So I should say omit, delete, all delete. Right, all these ties are needed when your clear spacing of longitudinal bars exceeds 150 millimeter. Very easy to follow. Also, we have your 12 bar case. We have a bundle 12 bars. When you have bundle, you don't need any. You don't have any alternate bar, so the tie bar should be enough as long as you pay a little attention on the radius of this curve when you turn 90 degrees, right? Here, 12 bars, and you may have one single tie if you're required. And when you do that, we don't need any splices for these ties. Whereas you need a splices here, you use a 2 U-types tied and use them together right there, and these are the 1.7 LD, so that this splice length should be greater than 1.7 times of the tied diameter, tie bar diameter. Okay, so this is clear. All right, so I think I explained everything that you need to know for designing column and tie longitudinal levers and tie levers that's required by these 3 ACI sections. So I gave you these problems for your self-study here and here. You don't have to submit it, but you wanna study. If those who wanna submit it, just please go ahead and submit it. I'll grade it for you. But this is not generally required for this class, as I said.